Welcome back to Planet Groove, everyone. I'm Rachel. Today we have the pleasure to be in the home of Janet Jackson in Malibu. Thank you so much again for having us. First off, let me say I love the album. It is very heavy on some songs, but you also have the typical dance tracks on there as well. But I want to read something to you. You said in what about the times you yelled at me? What about the times you hit my face? What about the times you kept on when I said no? Don't want to live my life in misery. These are some pretty heavy things you're talking about, abuse physically, mentally, and verbally. It's very brutally honest. Was this a part of the healing process to actually get these things out, put them on paper, vocalize them?
It was very cathartic, writing the album, very therapeutic, and at times it was very difficult, especially with like writing What About, just like reliving things that happened to you.
Right. And did you get to a point where you had to relive them? Because you really, a lot of times when you're healing over something, if you don't bring it to the surface, it never comes up.
Or it comes up and you suppress it in some way, but it will continue to come up for the rest of your life, and you still don't know how to deal with it until you learn how and face it and get it out. And that was difficult, but in the end I'm really happy that I did do it. And more so than anything, to help other women who are dealing with domestic violence. Hopefully it'll help them deal with it in a positive way. You know, as hard as it is, and hard as it was for me to, pack my bags and leave, it's like something just keeps you there. It just keeps you there, and you know that this is not the place for you. And there are times when you think, well, it's out of love. It's because the person loves me. I mean, all these things go through your head, and finally, just getting the strength to say, that's it. I'm not going to deal with this anymore, and I may die getting out of this, but that's just a risk I'm going to have to take, and taking that route as opposed to, I actually saw a documentary on women who were in prison for killing their husbands due to domestic violence and not taking that route, and I'm happy that I'm not a violent person, and I'm very happy that part of my life is actually over with. I really am. And hopefully, like I said before, this song will help other women in a positive way.
You seem now to have gotten to an enlightened stage. You had the knowledge and the know-how to bring those feelings to the surface, to get them out there so that you can release them, and that's good.
Yes, I was very thankful. I'm learning the things that I did about myself and about the ways to deal with these issues, things that happened in my childhood, and my teenage years were probably the most difficult of my life, more so than even more so than my childhood, in a totally more of a physical way. Not to say that physical is more difficult than mental abuse. Yeah, it is different for everyone, and that's what I try to explain to people. When, I talked about as a school teacher and something happening with a school teacher, and I had heard someone say, oh, come on, she's got to come up with something better than that. No, that's not the thing. It wasn't about the teacher, it was about me. It was about me feeling inadequate before the teacher, but what brought me to that point of that inadequacy, of feeling that way, and it's those things that lead up, and it's just like the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
It's the teacher doing the certain things where you just break down, and not every child deals with it the same way. It can go in one ear and out the other with one child, but it can really affect someone who's more sensitive, and as a kid I was incredibly sensitive, and those things really hurt and really affected me, or the feeling of not being good enough or not being smart enough. Those were things that added to it. So when the teacher calls you out in front of the class to do this equation, and you don't feel that you're bright enough to begin with to solve it, and then she's making fun of you in front of that makes you feel so tiny.
And it almost validates your thoughts that you had about yourself already.
And the thing is you're busy thinking about how everyone is perceiving you at that moment that you can't even stop to think. And if you gave yourself just that time, you could probably solve the equation.
Right.
9 out of 10 times you could, but you're too busy thinking of how you look with everyone else around you and how stupid you look and you are is the way that you feel. That it magnifies it so much more. And that's what people don't understand, really. And, I've heard a lot of people talk about, how can you possibly have gone through bad times in your life? You grew up in a wealthy family, and what people don't understand, it's not about money. I mean, there are so many people that can't or barely make an ends meet or can't, and I understand that. But it goes beyond that. Money does not make happiness. Happiness comes from within. And
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, everyone has issues. And
everyone does, no matter where you are on the totem pole. Everyone has issues. And they're just, no one's to say that one person's issues are worse than another's because someone might be poorer than the next person. Everyone is different. And it's how it affects your life. And that's what I try to explain to people. It was really funny because my cousin, I feel like I'm talking so much, but
no.
My cousin saw the Oprah show, and I hadn't seen her in a very long time. She lives in Arizona. And she came over, and she just started crying. And we talked for a good while, and she started, letting out certain things to me that happened to her when she was a kid that she never spoke to anyone about. But she said, when I saw that Oprah interview, I instantly knew what you were talking about. And she understood because she's been there. Not to say that other people haven't, but maybe to not certain extents or maybe in a different way. But we started talking about her childhood and things that happened with her, and it really affected her deeply, the things that happened. And my heart went out to her, and I tried to explain what I've learned about myself, and hopefully she can apply it to her life, and maybe it'll help her get over that. Because it keeps coming back. I mean, she's in her 40s now, and she suppresses it, but yet these keep coming back, and it'll continue to come back for the rest of her life unless she does something about it, learn how to deal with it.
I think we think that life is so easy for children and for teenagers.
It's not.
But we don't realize that the things that they learn as children and teenagers, those are things that really mold who you are as an adult.
Yes, exactly. And I've always said that. It makes up who you are as an adult. And that's why it's very important. That's why I'm not really in a rush to have children at this point, because I'm still learning a lot, and bad characteristics that have been passed on from one generation to the next. And not to say that my parents didn't do the best job that they could, because they did, and I'm very appreciative for them to do the job that they did do. But certain molds I would like to break that I don't want to pass on if I ever have children, and that's what I'm learning right now. And I'm so happy that I haven't had kids.
Yeah, my oldest sister recently went to visit my aunt in Canada, where she went to university, and my younger sister is staying with her now while she's in university. And she said to her, I always thought you hated me when I stayed here. And my aunt said to her, no, but you were our first teenager, because their kids were younger than my oldest sister. She said, you were our first teenager, and we didn't know how to handle you. We didn't know how to relate to you, how to talk to you. And then we had our kids as teenagers. Now your youngest sister is here, and I think we're too lenient with her now, maybe.
Well, you see, the funny thing is, too, is communication, how important it is. Here she is thinking that they hate her, but yet they didn't know how to deal with her by her being a teenager. But just opening up and saying that, just opening that door, it could have been a lot different, and maybe a lot, not to say that there wasn't any love that flowed through there, but maybe a lot more than what was shown, possibly. And not those feelings of someone disliking you and you spending that time with them. Communication is very important.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Absolutely. What has been the hardest part of this healing process for you?
The most difficult time truly was with the album, because it was like the epicenter of it all at that very moment. And I said, oh God, I said, are you testing me? Are you going to see if I'm going to crack or, just go crazy? And sometimes that's the way I felt. And it seemed like everything was happening right at that moment, and yet I couldn't put the album on the back burner. I mean, I had deadlines that I had to meet, so I had to deal with that and write the album at the same time. But if it weren't for those things, I don't think the album would have turned out the way that it has. And I don't regret it in any way. In any way, I'm very pleased with the outcome. And I'm very pleased that people are accepting it the way that they are, and that it is helping people.
And hopefully it will help other people to really look inside themselves and heal the pain that they have.
That's what I want most, more so than anything. I mean, people have always asked me, do you care about record sales? Of course I do. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't. But if it were between record sales and helping someone and their life, I would choose that, because I know that they're going to go on to pass that on to someone else and help them. And it's just going to snowball, and it's going to keep going. And that's always been my goal and where my heart truly lies. I love helping people and giving to charities and doing things for people. And that's what I get the biggest kick out of. That's what makes me truly feel special, is when I know I can help someone and see us put a smile on someone else's face.
And I'm sure even more so now that you're happy and that you're going through the healing process. It means so much more. Not that it didn't mean more before, but when you're hurting, it's hard to see other people's pleasure as much as when you're happy.
Yes, most definitely.
We're going to take a break and come back and talk some more, especially about where you find your peace now.
Cool.
We'll be right back with Janet Jackson. Welcome back to Planet Groove. I'm Rachel, here in the home of Janet. What are you laughing at?
I don't know, I just got giddy for a second, just silly.
I've heard that you do that you like giggling and laughing, and that it really brings happiness to you.
Yeah, it does. That's why people say, God, she's going through stuff every time we see her mouth open, and she's laughing.
Right.
Which I do, but the kids, the dancers, I love being with them. They make me laugh all the time. And that's all we do is, it seems like we do get our work done, but we play so much. Sometimes I wonder how we ever do get work done during rehearsals, but that's what makes it enjoyable. So it makes it so much fun, and you don't mind going to work every day, because it's like playing with your friends, you know,
That's
with your
what
best
it's supposed
friends.
to be. You're supposed to enjoy your work and what you're doing, you know? So where do you find peace?
Aside from here, being at the beach, with my friends, the dancers, I have a few friends outside of them that have been friends of mine for a very long time, and just doing things with them, staying here at the home. Sometimes we'll go out to a club and get really silly.
Right.
Yeah, and have a really good time, and dance and act a fool.
Now, I've read a lot that you like to go out and dance and go to clubs. Where do you go to a club that you can actually just go and have a good time?
It's hard. It really is, because people always come up to you, and there are times when I have to take security with me, and then there are times when I just don't want to be bothered with security, or I just want to be with my friends, or have them stay away, so that I feel that I'm alone with my friends, as opposed to right next to me or right in front of me. So there are a lot of clubs though here, a lot of little hole in the walls that are real nice, and people get to know you, and with that, you just...
I've read and spoken to different people who, there's always both sides to the spectrum, of course. Some people say that their friends are the friends they've had for years before they became famous. Other people say that those friends couldn't grow with them and started to treat them funny, so their friends are people in the industry now.
Yeah.
You know, does it go both ways for you?
I don't have very many friends in the industry. Very few. There are a lot of people that I know in this business, but as far as, true friends in the industry, I don't have very many. No, very few. I can count probably on one hand.
Yeah, difficult to make friends. You were talking earlier about the fact that at school with the teacher who'd made fun of you, or the different things that you had to go through, and that numbing effect that it had. Where would you go to hide from that? I know growing up in a house with 9 kids, it's difficult to find somewhere to go and find that peace. And
I would go in the bushes. There was a brick wall and tons of bushes, and the dogs had this little, from entering, they had a little doorway that they had kind of made an entranceway from wearing out the leaves that were there. So I'd crawl in there with them, and I'd sit up against the brick wall and I'd talk to them. And that's how I dealt with the things that I went through as a kid. I never talked to my brothers or sisters, I guess like other kids probably would, or even to your parents. I never went to them with anything. I went to the dogs.
I know now that, I think you're dealing with it in a much better way now than going into the bushes.
But truthfully, I really feel now, looking back on it, that was, they're great listeners, and I felt they understood what I was going through, but when I think about it now in actuality, I think I was really talking to God through them, is really what it was. And as I got a little bit older, maybe 11, 10, 12, I started talking to God and asking him questions. Why this, why that? And that helped me a great deal, actually.
I know you grew up in a family that was Jehovah's Witness, and that's, in my opinion, now you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I find a lot of times that organized religion can be very stifling, and it can be very oppressing, and that it doesn't encourage you really feeling your emotions and expressing them and getting them out. It's more a thing of internalizing it. Did that have a part in you internalizing your feelings?
I totally believe that it did, and I never studied the way that I was supposed to have studied. And I knew deep in my heart when I became an adult that I would not stay with the religion. But I'm all for whatever works for the person.
Right. Because some people need that. They need that
some
rigidity.
people do. They do.
Yeah.
And for myself, it's more of a spiritual one-on-one.
Right.
That spirituality with God, and that works for me.
Yeah.
And that's what's most important. I don't like the way religions knock down one another. I have never liked that. And it's not right. I don't think it's what God intended for them to do. I really don't. As if there's only one true, way. And I don't believe in that. And also for that reason, that's why I just like doing my own thing and what works best for me, and to know what I have in my heart, and God knowing what's truly in my heart. And that's what means the most to me.
How would you describe your relationship with God at this point in your life? God as you know?
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm very, given what I had gone through in the past, and from time to time it still resurfaces. And, I'm glad to have gotten to know him on the level that I have. I don't know where I would be, really, without him, especially at those times. And I was always the kind of person, and a friend of mine had to keep saying to me, ask God for his help. And I was always the kind of person that would always thank God when things are going great, and very thankful. But when things weren't going so well, I would never remember to ask for his help. And finally, I started doing that. And it's amazing how when you ask for things, how you get answers in different ways. And I'm just very thankful, very thankful.
I've always been of the belief as well that the things that you fear the most, sometimes you make those things happen to you, or you bring them to you from fearing them. Do you think that plays into spirituality and God in any way?
Well, I've learned that you have to really walk through fear. That's how you conquer it. I hope I'm understanding you correctly. That's how to deal with it. Instead of, I know a lot of people run. And
that's exactly what I meant, because I think God gives us things to teach us. Not lessons, but to teach us how to deal with them and how to get over humps, so that next time that it faces us, we know how to deal with it.
All these different obstacles, and making it easier with each and every obstacle.
Exactly.
And I think people's first instinct is to run.
Right.
But I've learned is not to run. And that's truly how you overcome that fear, is by, screw off your shoulders and just face it. Just walk right towards it. Right. And deal with it. And then the next one is not as difficult. And you've learned, there's a lesson under your belt from it.
I tried Ultra-Thins with tabs, thinking tabs.
Let's talk a little bit about your family, a subject that you've not always been open to talking about. I think I understand why. I'm going to ask you a little bit later why that is. But your relationship with your mom has always seemed to be a mainstay and grounding for you. Do you still view yourself, or rather, does she still view you as the baby?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think she ever will stop.
Right.
That's what I am. In actuality, I'm the baby of the family.
Did your mom know about the different things that you were going through, the pain and the unhappiness at the time you were going through it?
No, not. You mean as a child?
As a child, as a teenager,
not
as a young adult?
No, not as a child. She was, she was an incredible mom, very loving. She was never standoffish in any way, but from what I can remember, I don't ever remember her saying to me, if there is anything, come to me. And maybe it was something that she thought I would automatically do, us being so close. And mother told me recently that I was very, very affectionate as a kid and constantly saying, I love you. And that the other kids never expressed affection the way that I did, and was wondering why I was so different than the rest of the kids. And I'm still that way to this day. I'm a very affectionate person. I never told her anything that I was going through, and maybe because of that, being so affectionate, she thought that I would just automatically come to her. But I didn't. For one, I didn't want to burden Mother. I could see other things going on in her life as a kid that were stressful, and I didn't want to burden her with my problems. I thought they weren't important enough,
right,
or big enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I could handle it on my own. And for that reason, I became a very independent kid. I was very independent as a kid. As an adult, not that long ago, I've just recently told her everything that had gone on with me, and she was the only one in the family that I told. And she knew during the time with the album that I was going through these things. But the weirdest thing is, out of the blue, Mother called me one day, and she said, I called to see how you're doing, which she does all the time, but this particular time, she said, I got this feeling. I wanted to know, how do you feel? How's your health? I said, I'm fine. And she said, mentally, on an emotional level, how are you doing? I just got this feeling that you aren't doing so well. And that's how the whole thing started. And no one else knew, aside from Renee and another friend of mine. So that instinct, and I think Mother has a little bit of something else too that she never talks about, but it was there. And every time I had these feelings, she would call me and ask me how I'm doing, and it was the weirdest thing. I mean, I may have been crying just an hour before, and the phone would ring, and it's Mother. So I've recently told her the things that I had gone through, and there was one person that I did go to for one thing in particular, and I asked her, I said, do you know who that person is? And she instantly knew that it was Mrs. Fine, who was our tutor. She's taught all of us except for my sister Rebe, who was out of school by the time she was often married by the time everyone moved to California. And I said, well, how did you guess that? She said, well, because she was like a second mother for you. And if it was something you didn't want me to know,
you'd go to her.
I know you'd go to her for something. And she that I thought was really weird, but she knew. And we've talked about all these things. And just talking about it, we were always close, but just talking about it has brought us even closer together. Yeah. And she's the most beautiful person in the world to me.
I think when we're younger, we think of our moms especially just as a mom. We don't think of them as woman or as a friend. But as you start to become a woman yourself,
yes,
you can see things maybe that she went through, and you can relate to it as a woman.
Yes, it's the truth. And I started learning a little bit more about her childhood and her life in my just my recent years, and I see how we really are alike in so many ways, and the things that we experience, the way that we've felt about ourselves at certain times in our life is exactly the same. So she really could relate to everything that I had told her. And I just wish, as a kid, and maybe it would have helped me to go to her if she would have said, I'm not only your mother, I am your friend, and you can come to me with anything, and I won't judge you. Because the religion did have a big part to do with it. I was so, and not that they judge, because they're taught not to judge, but I was so fearful because, God, I'm not supposed to do that, because the religion talks about that and this and that, and yet I've done this, and what am I going to do? I can't go to Mother with it. It's like, oh, God, and then you just feel kind of stuck.
Right. Do you think that it's kind of like you're living through some of your mother's dreams? Some of the things that maybe she would have wanted to do in her life, you're able to do for her because it's difficult being married, having 9 children. That's the most major career I think a woman could have in terms of the time and the energy that it takes to do those things. So does she sometimes take extra pride in things that you're doing because she was not able to do them?
Such as, you mean, such as...
Or just the things that I think women can do nowadays that in her era it was unthought of, especially being a religious person. Some things you would never...
I would say definitely. She does. Oh God, I lost my thought. There was something I was going to bring up with Mother in this particular...
Does this conversation, does it just bring back memories and different things of your mom, just things that pop in your mind and different happinesses and joy?
There's one picture in particular that I just enters my head all the time when I think about Mother, and I'm sitting in her lap and I have my head on her chest and I have a smile on my face, and that was happiness for me, being with her.
Well, that's certainly a beautiful image. Let's talk a little bit about your dad, your relationship with him. I read a particular story that said that at one point when you were a little girl, he asked you to call him Joseph and not Dad anymore. And it's funny, we were talking earlier about people going through different things and how it affects you differently.
And that's one of those things.
Right, because in our family, it was kind of a joke with us that we would call our parents by their first names. And I would say Jens or Peter for my dad in a joke, and they would be like, this obnoxious child, how could you call us by our first names? And now my grandmother, it's funny because my niece, her great-granddaughter, calls her by her first name, and it's this big joke in the family that there is this 1-year-old calling this 80-year-old woman Mavis, and it's a big joke in our family, but we can laugh at that, whereas with your situation, I would imagine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it would be fairly different, something being told to you with a mandate on it as opposed to having the choice.
Right.
For him to say to you, I don't want you to call me Dad anymore.
It wasn't even a choice of anymore, really. It was, don't call me that. And I tried, the thing is I've always called him Joseph. I tried calling him Dad because I saw my other friends with their fathers do it. And he turned around and told me, those are the things that people don't understand, and how it really...
Right, because you feel shut out.
Yeah, and we've always called Mother, but I still, to this day, every one of my family calls him Joseph, and that's because he's asked us to.
Was that a business decision on his end, from as far as you know, from just...
I don't know.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, call me Joseph. I'm Joseph to you.
And at that point, your father tells you something and you do it because you're young and your parents are supposed to, know everything, and they're supposed to be right. So you do what they say.
You don't want to get in trouble.
Right, you don't want to get in trouble. Right.
Yeah.
Right. You've made some other decisions in your life to do things based on your father's wishes. Because I know growing up, your father is always so important to you. Do you regret any of those decisions, whether it be calling him Joseph or doing a specific TV show, or
I wish the whole relationship was different.
Yeah.
I really do. We're not close, and I don't know if it ever will change. It's. I see him making an effort, and it tears my heart at times, but it's difficult. It's difficult for me because I'm so used to it being one way. It's not like overnight.
Change is difficult, especially after so many years.
Yeah, it's like now I'm supposed to change because I don't know if it's him realizing how truly important family really is. I mean, he may have known it from the get-go, but may really not have known how to express his love is what it is for me. And it has to do with the way that he was raised and what happened in his childhood. And he left home at a very young age. And he was a very strong person. And maybe it's just solely that, him not knowing how to express his love. And it really took its toll on us, you know, as kids. And yeah, it's real painful.
We learn a lot more easily now, I think. And I think our parents' era is just so different. I know my grandfather just passed, and my father said to his sister, "Did you tell him you loved him?" And she said, "Yeah, every day." And he said, "Wow, I never told him I loved him." And that's...
He wishes.
He so wishes, because he may not have had a good relationship with him growing up, but later on in life, he started to mend those broken bonds, and he never got to that point to be able to break the pattern and say it, and he regrets it now.
I guess that's my next obstacle, you know, is with my father, and it's going to be real tough, and it's going to take a lot of time for myself, because it's just, there's a lot there that that I haven't gotten over, and that I'm still working on, and it's just real difficult. And sometimes you can't go to the person because they just don't understand, and certain things maybe I can, but with time will tell, and hopefully things will change for the better.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Planet Groove. I'm Rachel, and we're here on the balcony of Janet's house out in Malibu. It's beautiful out here. Absolutely beautiful. It really is. It's a little cool this time of year, but it's very beautiful. Cool. Everyone thinks California is hot all the time. It's not.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's warmer inland than it is.
Right, definitely. I've read a lot of stories recently in magazines and papers and things, of you talking about this mysterious cowboy, this messiah, this person who you seem to just instantly gel with, but you don't really give us a lot about who he was. And
no, I don't. I have purpose.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it's fair.
Okay. Is that on his side?
Yeah. And people bombarding him and wanting interviews and that whole thing. And
so what did you and Janet talk about?
He's always been a very private person, and that's the way he likes it, and that's the way it should be.
Is this someone who you knew before, or was it someone who...
No, it's just someone that I met not that long ago, actually.
Right.
Yeah. And he's just an incredible man. He really is, and he's helped me a great deal.
Right. What's the extent of your relationship with him?
He's truly a friend. He's there for me when I need him. It's times when I call early in the morning, late at night, he's there for me, and I'm very thankful to have someone like that who is as wise and has had the experience that he's had in his life. I mean, he's experienced so much. He's an older man, and he really is a cowboy. And to be able to talk with someone who's pretty much done it all and can totally understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
I'm very thankful to have someone like that.
Right. Do you think that a big part of your relationship with him and what you felt when you met him was you? Because if you had met him at another time in your life, you might have blown him off had he come to you and said...
I've always said everything happens for a reason. I really do believe that. And God works in mysterious ways. And I think this was just one of his ways of working his magic, I suppose, for me. And putting me... I never in a million years thought I was... Never went any place to meet a person, nothing like that, where our paths crossed. And that's how it happened. And it was someone that I needed at that particular time, someone like him, to help me through a lot of what I was going through, and someone with the experience that he has had, like I said before. And I'm real happy.
Right. You've said that he has been one of the most important people in your life at this time, along with Renee, your longtime boyfriend. What is it that this person gives you that Renee does not, or do they both give you the same?
They give me a great deal, but it's on two different levels, really. With him, it's the knowledge that he's had, the experience. And Renee and I together are learning. And then there are things by Renee being on the outside looking in, he can see. And that he's definitely helped me with. But for someone like the guy from the desert, just all that that he has experienced and what he's even taught, like I said before, Renee as well as myself together.
Is it strange referring to him as the guy in the desert since you have such an intimate relationship with him?
Well, I said the guy in the desert because that's what you just said.
Well, because I don't know his name.
Right, but that's what I know, this guy that I met, this cowboy. And I was, normally I say the cowboy. So, but, is it strange to refer to him as, no, it isn't.
That's funny. We've heard a lot about your relationship with Renee to the extent of the time that you have been together. How did you initially get together? It seems like so long now that you have been a couple.
But, 12 years.
Wow, it's a long time.
Yeah.
How did you initially make that connection that you were going to be together?
I had to pull it out of him. He didn't want to fess up to it.
Oh, no. So you felt that he had feelings for you?
Well, yeah, I did. It's really weird. I mean, we were really good friends for 4 years. We were best friends. And through my marriage with James, he was there for me. And he was someone that I'd call up and cry to all the time, or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Need someone to talk to about certain things. And he was always encouraging me to keep on and give it another shot and do this and do that and try to make it work. And eventually it just didn't work out. So we were still good friends, and we started hanging out more. And out of nowhere, I won't go into the story, but it's kind of how it happened. And we started dating. Oh, look at the kites.
How does someone date Janet, though? That's my question. You know, it's that people can't see you that way. It's difficult.
How do they? I don't know. I guess that's a question to ask Renee.
Where's Renee?
I think he's working.
Oh, no.
How do they? I don't know. I think it was hard for him in the beginning, and he was fighting it a lot because he wasn't planning on falling in love again. He was in a couple of bad relationships, and he didn't plan on having his heart broken again. And I guess that's what he thought would happen with the next relationship that he would enter. But I'm very thankful that it's gone the way that it has. And like I said, we've been together for 12 years, and I think we're very fortunate.
There seems to be a very healthy separation between the personal relationship and the business side of it, because you guys do work together.
Yes, we do, and it's really hard. It's one of the most difficult things that we've had to learn to work out. There's a time to turn it on, a time to cut it off, where it's just the two of you and being intimate and being a couple. And then there's the whole business where, and whatever may happen while you're working, you don't let that cross over into your relationship. It's like, this is just strictly business. It has nothing to do with our relationship. And we've managed it pretty well. And at times it gets a little tough. It's like God say, okay, I'm going to test you guys to see if you're still on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Throw something in, and it just kind of messes us up for a second, and then we get right back on track again.
Right.
But it has been tough from time to time. But I think we've done fairly well, because most people can't continue that, and we've been doing it for 12 years.
Yeah, it's definitely a long time. Would you say that with your relationship with James that you're somehow turned off of marriage, or it's just something?
No. No. It's more of a spiritual thing for myself and Renee at this moment. Spiritually, we do feel that we're connected in that way. And when people get married, a lot of things that I hear is wondering how long it's going to last. Will I give them a year? I give them 2 years. Will I give them just a few months? And I feel that because of these Hollywood marriages and that whole thing, and it's not easy for anyone. But I feel when they start to do that, when they begin to do that, they put a lot of negative energy in the universe, and that's no good. And I think you're bound to fail at that point with everyone staring at you, waiting to see, I knew it would happen. You know, so we like the way it is, what we have right now. Who knows, someday maybe we will, but right now we like what we have. We're very happy with that.
Do you believe in the concept of soulmates? And would you say?
Yes, I do believe in it.
Would you say Renee's your soulmate? Yeah.
Yes, I do believe that.
It's beautiful. All right, we're going to take a break and come right back. Janet on Planet Groove. We'll be back. I know you wrote every song on this album, except for the Rod Stewart remake. But there's a whole different level of freedom on this album than I've ever seen before. just with the topics that you're writing about and the things that you do address, as we spoke about earlier. The sexual content is at a whole different level. Was that something that you felt your audience was truly ready for, or that you didn't care? You just wanted to put it out there.
Are they ready for it? I don't know. I think some people are, some people aren't. It's
Right.
the way that I see it. Not everyone's going to be. But I think the biggest misconception with that is people are totally saying all this S&M, bondage. That's not what I'm into at all.
Right.
I think there's with everything that I've ever spoken about when it comes to that, even on the Janet album, I think there's a way to be very sensual and very sexy. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that if someone is into that, but that's not what I'm into. I think there's nothing wrong with a blindfold or having your hands, your wrist bound while you're anticipating your lover's every move. And that can be very sensual, very sexy. It doesn't have to be something that's painful or I guess frightening in a way, but yet pleasurable in a way, which that's not what I'm into. But the sensual, more sensual side of it, like I just explained, that's what I enjoy. And that's what I think one of the biggest misconceptions for doing the song Rope Burn.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people, as I said, were not ready to hear you talk about these different things. But you yourself, when did you go from, and you may never have been this person, but the perception of you, when did you go from being the shy, innocent Janet, conservative Janet, to the outspoken, sensual, sexy woman?
I think it was with the Janet album. It was right after I did Poetic Justice. That's what changed me a lot.
The movie?
Yeah, doing the movie
Like
and the
that.
people that I met, the girls that I hung out with. I mean, before that, I said I never cursed. I never did. Oh, to hear someone curse, but how sinful. And I used to charge Jimmy and Terry 25 cents every time they said a curse word when we did the Control album.
Funny.
And I did.
How much money did you make?
Well, they didn't give me all my money.
They still owe you.
Yeah, they do still owe me. But it's like, okay, this game isn't cute anymore. It's like, well, stop cursing. But that, I mean, that's the way I felt. That's how I was, grew up, and especially with the religion that we grew up with. But then my life really took a turn, a totally different turn during that film. And one of the girls that I hung out with, Josie, she was like a sailor. It was so funny. And there were a lot of curse words in the film. And I mean, I had to, so that it would kind of sound natural when something did come out of your mouth. You know what I mean? As opposed to it sounding really unnatural.
Right.
So, but then once I started, I couldn't stop.
It's addictive, right?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, wait, I got to find different words. It's like I did it before. I can do it again, but it's tough. It's
That's
really hard
funny.
to stop once you start.
I was in the Army for a couple of years, so I know that cursing thing. It's like, we used to call it trucker mouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's hard once you stop. This whole sexuality that you've been experimenting with or feeling so much now, more so with this album that you're showing us anyway, how do your family and your friends react to it?
My friends love it. My family doesn't talk about it.
It's the unspoken.
That's how, it's like the dead elephant in the living room. You just don't talk about it. You pretend as if it's not there. No, they've told me that they love the album, but they really don't talk about that part of it. It's more on a musical level that we speak about, musically speaking.
I'm going to read a little quote to you here. Take off your shoes and sit right down. Loosen up the back of your pretty French gown. Tonight's the night. Why didn't you change the words when the original song says, "'Cause I love you, girl, ain't nobody gonna stop us now"? Why didn't you change the words?
For one, I love the way it was written, but the main reason was because it's reality for a lot of women. And if I was to, ever since I was a kid, when I sang the song, I sang it with girl. I never said boy or guy and I wanted to leave it like that. And it's reality for a lot of women.
Right.
And for a lot of my friends, it's reality for them. And it's hard, coming out, and very difficult, and how your friends and family will perceive you or even, accept you, will they? So that makes it really tough for a lot of people. And hopefully hopefully with songs like this or songs like Free Zone,
right?
it will help in some sort of way. But Free Zone is just not about homosexuality. It's about heterosexuality as well. It's about people being themselves, regardless of what race you are, regardless of what your sexual preference is. It's being who you are and not living your life for someone else or pretending to be someone else for someone else. Because you see so many different people play so many different characters around different people to please those people, as opposed to being themselves, pleasing themselves, and that's what it's really about.
Right. Would you say that also with this album, with you letting go of a lot of the emotional and the mental pain that you had, that some sexual pain for pleasure was the addiction that you picked up, or you release something, you pick something back up?
Sexual pain? But see, I don't think...
For pleasure.
But see, I don't see it as sexual pain. That, to me, there still isn't any sexual... I mean, someone said something about, like, the candle wax, and said, oh, God, that must be painful. Well, for some people it might be painful, but for others it may not. And, a friend of mine tried it just for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely loved it. I feel really silly talking about this like this.
But you know what I've noticed about you? Your print interviews are a lot more giving. They're very open. You go into depth with a lot of the sexual things, but your TV interviews aren't so much the same.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll tell you why. And it's crazy, but I just envision my mother. It's the weirdest thing. I can see my mother. When I feel that there's a camera on me, I think about mother. But when someone's like this, it's like having a conversation with someone. You know what I mean? So if you turn the cameras off, we can really talk.
And I'll hear all about it. Oh, no. God, that's funny. Well, let's switch it up a little bit, talk a little bit about success and money and those things, and the whole idea that money brings happiness and that money is success. What are your thoughts on that?
Is money success?
What is success to you?
Success is doing what you love, I think, regardless of the money. Doing what you love, being happy. That's success to me. Having someone that you love there with you the whole way, that's success to me. Being happy, that's truly success to me.
With every family, I think success does mean different things. For some people, it's finishing high school. For some people, it's getting a job in a bank. For some people,
accomplishing your goals.
Right, exactly. What do you think your family now views success as, having so many of you be quote-unquote successful in the eyes of society in music?
I would think just that. Love, happiness, more so than anything, the happiness.
If you woke up tomorrow morning and all the success and all the fame were gone, what would be the one thing that you would have learned?
That I would have
learned if you woke up and everything, all the success was gone?
That it's not as important as love and happiness. Because truly, I can wake up tomorrow and it can all be gone. I mean, when you sit here and you think about what happened in what was it, in the 20s with the stock market and how the whole depression hit, and all these people that were so wealthy, all of a sudden they lost all their money and they were committing suicide over losing money. You know, that's what I mean. So obviously, it's like, what had the world at that point? I mean, even today, had it come to feel that that means the world to them, that they're going to kill themselves because of that.
Right.
And you can survive when it comes to love.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to change it up a little bit again. And now you've also won many awards. You've done many things in your life. Been in TV shows, movies, worldwide tour, and I mean, your awards are endless. Your albums, 8 American Music Awards, 2 Grammys, 7 MTV Music Awards.
Actually, listen to me correcting you. I actually have 4 Grammys.
Okay, 4 Grammys, 5 Soul Train Awards.
got my
Where are
nerve,
your
right?
awards? We walked through your house and...
No, they're not here.
Where do you put your awards?
Storage.
Really? Why?
Why? I don't know. I just... No, actually, we had another house, and we wound up selling it. But because people always want to see your awards, so we had them displayed. And that's the way it was growing up. But I don't know. I like the home to be the home.
Right.
Maybe if our house was bigger, or we had another area, or a little cottage away from the house, I would probably display them there, but not within the house.
Do you feel that you're a well-rounded person?
Well-rounded? No, not really. I don't feel that.
Because I think you are. What do you feel is missing? Why you don't feel you're well-rounded?
Well, I mean, I don't. To me, a well-rounded person would know a lot about politics, a lot about sports. I mean, everything under the sun. And I don't.
What do you know the most about? What is it that you feel that you would be extremely comfortable talking about for a lengthy space of time?
About life and its ups and downs and how to deal with that. Things that I've recently learned. That's what I feel most comfortable talking about.
Well, someone in politics or something else may know nothing about that. So
that's true.
Yeah,
it's very true.
Yeah. What are some of your fondest moments that you have of your life to date?
Probably a lot of them would be being on tour, things that have happened.
Are you going to go on tour with this album?
Oh, yeah. We start in Washington, D.C.
Excellent.
On July 9th is our first show in the States.
Oh, we are looking forward to it.
So in your guys' backyard.
We are going to be there for sure. What's your all-time favorite line from a song that you have done that stands out?
Together Again. And this is horrible. You're asking me now. I just blanked. I gotta sing the song.
If I had a good voice, I'd sing for you, but that's a beautiful song.
When I feel that I don't belong, draw my strength from the words when you said, hey, it's about you. Look deeper inside you.
That's beautiful. Now, what does Janet do when she's not touring and she's not writing music or doing anything with the industry? What is it? What is your favorite?
I love to read. I love hanging out with my friends. Like I said, going to the clubs, being silly. Or we come here and Ricardo makes like a great dinner or lunch, and everyone loves that. And they're always putting in their orders. I want this, I want that. And we just have a great time. We'll play music and we'll play games. So we do a lot of that here at home too, which is fun. And they'll wind up staying the night sometimes. So that's how I.
Any regrets in your life?
Regrets?
Yeah.
No, not even the points that weren't the greatest, because they've taught me a great deal about myself, and it's helped me to grow. So I don't regret any part of it.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us into your home.
Thanks for coming.
I know how precious your time is, and we really appreciate you spending this day with us here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Janet Jackson on Planet Move, everyone. Thanks so much for spending this time with us.